Before Jungkook could even react or make a sound, he was violently yanked sideways into an empty, dimly lit storage room. The heavy oak door slammed shut behind him, the metallic click of a deadbolt sliding into place echoing like a gunshot. Jungkook stumbled backward, slamming his spine hard against the cold concrete wall. Pain shot through his back, knocking the wind right out of his lungs. Well, well, look what we have here, a deep, greasy voice drawled from the shadows. Jungkook gasped silently, his eyes widening in terror as his vision adjusted to the gloom. Standing near the door was a tall, heavily built man with a leather jacket and a cruel, crooked sneer. It was Jax, Chloe's older brother, a notorious senior known around campus for his wealthy family's influence and his brutal temper. Standing right beside Jax was Chloe herself, her arms crossed, a vindictive smirk plastered across her face. "My sister told me all about how your new little bodyguard embarrassed her," Jax sneered, taking a slow, heavy step toward Jungkook. "And how you think you're untouchable now just because some rich transfer kid gave you a little attention." Jungkook panicked. He scrambled sideways, trying to reach the door handle, but Jax moved with terrifying speed. He grabbed Jungkook by the collar of his hoodie and slammed him back against the wall with enough force to rattle his teeth. "No, please!" Jungkook's mind screamed, his hands desperately clawing at Jax's thick wrists. He made ragged, gasping sounds in his throat, but no voice came out. His helplessness swallowed him whole. "Jax, make sure he remembers his place," Chloe said coldly from the doorway, pulling out her phone. "Take some photos. Let's see if his little prince still wants him after he's ruined." Jax grinned, his eyes gleaming with dark intent. "Don't worry, sis. He won't be looking so pretty after today." Jax pinned both of Jungkook's hands above his head with one thick palm, using his free hand to violently rip at the front of Jungkook's sweater. The fabric tore open with a sharp, loud noise. Jungkook writhed wildly, tears bursting from his eyes, streaming down his pale cheeks. He kicked his legs, trying desperately to break free, but the strength difference was overwhelming. His chest heaved with silent, agonizing sobs. "Taehyung, Taehyung, please!" Crash. The heavy oak door didn't just open, it shattered.
The thick wooden frame splintered into pieces as the door was violently kicked off its hinges, slamming onto the concrete floor with a deafening boom. The sheer force of the impact made Chloe scream, stumbling backward into the dusty shelves.
Standing in the shattered doorway was Kim Taehyung. His charcoal coat was gone, leaving him in his crisp black shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms. But it wasn't his clothing that made the air in the room instantly freeze, it was his face. Taehyung's eyes were devoid of any human emotion. They were cold, pitch black, and filled with a bloodthirsty rage so violent it felt suffocating. "Get your hands off him," Taehyung spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a deadly absolute weight that vibrated through the floorboards. Jax blinked, startled by the intrusion, but his pride quickly took over. He let go of Jungkook and stepped forward, flexing his large fists. "Who the hell do you think you are? You think you can just break in here?" Jax didn't even get to finish his sentence. Taehyung moved like a blur. Before Jax could raise his arms, Taehyung closed the distance and delivered a devastating kick directly to Jax's chest. The sound of ribs cracking echoed in the small room as Jax was sent flying backward, crashing violently into a heavy wooden cabinet before hitting the floor. Jax groaned, coughing up blood as he tried to push himself up, but Taehyung was already over him.
Taehyung grabbed Jax by his collar, lifted him effortlessly, and slammed his head directly into the brick wall. Thud! Jax groaned weakly, his eyes rolling back. Taehyung didn't stop. He threw Jax to the floor and brought his heavy boots down, mercilessly breaking Jax's wrist in one swift, sickening crunch. Jax shrieked in agony, curling into a ball on the blood-spotted floor. Chloe screamed in absolute horror, pressing her back against the wall, her entire body shaking uncontrollably. Stop, stop, you're going to kill him. Taehyung turned his head slowly toward her. His dark hair fell over his forehead, his breathing steady, his knuckles bruised and reddened. He stepped over Jax's groaning body and approached Chloe. Chloe dropped to her knees, sobbing hysterically, raising her hands to protect her face. Please, don't touch me. Please. Taehyung stopped a mere inch from her, leaning down until his shadow completely swallowed her. If you ever look at him again, Taehyung whispered, his voice smooth, terrifying, and utterly devoid of mercy. If your breath even touches the same air he breathes, I will bury you and your entire family so deep that no one will ever remember your names. Do you understand me? Chloe nodded frantically, tears streaming down her face, choked by sheer terror. Taehyung turned away from her as if she no longer existed. He rushed over to the corner where Jungkook was huddled against the wall. Jungkook was shaking violently, his knees pulled tightly to his chest, his hands desperately trying to hold his torn hoodie together over his chest. Tears flooded his blurred eyes, his silent sobs trembling through his entire frame. The terrifying monster who had just broken bones vanished instantly. Taehyung dropped to his knees in front of Jungkook, his hands trembling as he reached out. Jungkook, baby, look at me, please. Jungkook flinched initially, but as soon as he smelled Taehyung's familiar comforting scent of sandalwood and rain, he threw himself forward, burying his face directly into the crook of Taehyung's neck. Taehyung wrapped his arms around Jungkook, pulling him tight against his chest. He immediately unbuttoned his own heavy wool coat, which he had carried on his arm, and wrapped it snugly around Jungkook's trembling shoulders, covering the torn clothing completely. Shh, I'm here. I've got you. You're safe. Taehyung murmured repeatedly, pressing soft, desperate kisses into Jungkook's hair, his cheeks, and his tear-stained temples. I'm so sorry I was late. I'm so sorry, my sweet boy. Jungkook clutched the lapels of Taehyung's coat, pressing his face into Taehyung's chest, crying silently until his body ached. Taehyung lifted Jungkook into his arms effortlessly, carrying him out of the destroyed storage room. He walked right past Chloe and her bloodied, unconscious brother without giving them a second glance. As they stepped out into the courtyard, two large black SUVs with tinted windows pulled up onto the grass right in front of the building. Four men dressed in sharp dark suits stepped out, bowing deeply as Taehyung approached. Clean up the mess in the east wing, Taehyung ordered his men in a cold, icy tone, not stopping his stride for a second. And fetch the principal. Tell him he has 5 minutes to hand over the keys to this institution or his family goes bankrupt by sunset. Yes, boss, the head security officer replied respectfully, opening the rear door of the lead SUV. Taehyung carefully slid into the back seat with Jungkook still cradled securely in his lap. As the heavy doors closed, shutting out the rest of the world, Jungkook buried his face deeper into Taehyung's chest. The soft hum of the rain outside washed over the quiet living room of Taehyung's estate. Inside, the dim, warm light offered a stark contrast to the storm raging outside and the storm that had just unfolded at Saint Jude College. Jungkook sat on the edge of the large leather sofa, wrapped tightly in Taehyung's heavy black coat. His hands were clasped around a mug of warm tea, though he hadn't taken a sip. He stared blankly at the floor, his shoulders trembling with silent, lingering terror. Taehyung returned from the kitchen carrying a small medical kit. He set it quietly on the coffee table and knelt on the hardwood floor right in front of Jungkook. "Let me look at your wrist, sweet boy," Taehyung said softly, his voice a gentle, comforting murmur. Jungkook hesitated before slowly extending his left arm. Around his pale wrist was a harsh, darkening red bruise where Jax had grabbed him. Taehyung's jaw tightened as he carefully wiped the skin with an antiseptic swab, applying a soothing salve before wrapping it neatly in clean gauze. Every touch was impossibly light, as though he feared Jungkook might shatter under his hands. When Taehyung finished, he didn't stand up. He kept his hands resting gently on Jungkook's knees, looking up into his wide, frightened eyes. "You don't have to carry this alone anymore, Jungkook," Taehyung said softly. "You never had to." Jungkook lowered his head. Tears finally overflowed, spilling down his cheeks in silent streams. He raised his trembling hands and began to sign, his movements hurried and frantic. "I am useless. I am defective. I couldn't even protect myself. You had to destroy your cover for me. I am just a burden to you, Taehyung." Taehyung's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. He grabbed Jungkook's hands midair, holding them firmly against his own chest, right over his beating heart. "Look at me," Taehyung commanded, his tone fiercely intense yet dripping with devotion. "Look at me, Jungkook." Jungkook raised his tear-streaked face. "You are not useless, you are not defective, and you are never a burden," Taehyung said, his voice shaking with raw emotion. "Do you know why I am here? Do you really think I cared about some stolen corporate documents?" Jungkook blinked through his tears, confused. "I saw the way you walked out the door every morning," Taehyung confessed, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I saw you crying in the bathroom when you thought I was asleep. I saw the hidden bruises on your shoulders, your torn clothes, and the light fading from your eyes day by day. My entire world was collapsing because you were hurting. Here, let me clear your confusion." Actually, when Jungkook asked Taehyung about his transfer, Taehyung told him someone in the university had stolen important corporate documents because he wanted Jungkook to told him whole truth. Taehyung reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black flash drive, placing it on the table. "I had my men reactivate and hack every disabled security camera at Saint Jude a week ago," Taehyung revealed quietly. "I saw everything. I saw Damon, Chloe, Marcus, and Miller. I saw every insult, every push, every single thing they did to you while you bore it all in silence. I wanted to burn that entire institution to the ground that very night. I needed to see who was hurting you with my own eyes, and I needed to tear them down piece by piece." Taehyung looked up, his dark eyes brimming with an intense, overwhelming love and devotion that made Jungkook's chest ache. "My undercover mission at the college wasn't about stolen company files or business deals," Taehyung confessed, cradling Jungkook's cheek in his warm palm. "My only mission was to protect you, to be the shadow that stands between you and anyone who dares to make you cry." Jungkook grabbed his phone again, typing with blurred vision, his hands shaking so violently he almost dropped it. "I thought if you found out how helpless I really am, you would realize I am not good enough for you. I thought you would get tired of protecting a broken freak and leave me." He leaned forward, resting his forehead against Jungkook's. "I took over the underworld after my father passed to make sure no one could ever touch what is mine," Taehyung whispered, his thumb tenderly wiping away Jungkook's tears. "My life has no meaning, no purpose without you. You saved me when we were kids, Jungkook. Let me protect you now." Jungkook squeezed his eyes shut, leaning his weight entirely into Taehyung's embrace. He buried his face in Taehyung's neck, his hands clutching the back of Taehyung's shirt as soft, breathy hitches escaped his throat, the closest thing to a sob his vocal cords could produce. By 8 o'clock the following morning, Saint Jude College was plunged into absolute chaos. When students arrived at the main courtyard, they found thousands of printed documents and photographs plastered across every wall, pillar, and bulletin board. They contained leaked messages, audio logs, and high-definition video stills exposing Chloe and Damon's extensive bullying operation, along with their private group chats mocking faculty and fellow students alike. Within hours, Damon's social standing vanished completely. Disgusted by the leaks, his friends abandoned him, and his girlfriend cut ties publicly in the middle of the crowded cafeteria. By noon, news broke that the college's board of trustees had held an emergency meeting. Professor Miller was summarily fired and stripped of his teaching license for official misconduct and physical negligence. Furthermore, Marcus was arrested directly from his hospital bed for physical assault and attempted violence. As for the dean and principal, they simply resigned effective immediately and vacated their offices, terrified of the powerful entity that had quietly bought out every share of the college overnight. At 1 p.m., a sleek silver limousine pulled into the main courtyard. The driver opened the door, and Taehyung stepped out, impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit. He didn't wear the student uniform anymore. He didn't need to. He turned and held out his hand toward the open door. Jungkook reached out, placing his slender hand into Taehyung's firm grip. Dressed in a cozy, pristine, oversized sweater and fitted trousers, Jungkook stepped out onto the cobblestone path beside him. The hundreds of students gathered in the courtyard gasped, stepping back to form a wide, clear path for the two of them. "This institution now belongs to the Kim Foundation," Taehyung announced, his voice smooth, authoritative, and chillingly final. "Anyone who treats another student with malice, anyone who abuses power, and anyone who dares to lay a single finger on Jungkook will answer directly to me." He looked down at Jungkook, his expression softening into warmth. "Let's go home, sweet boy." Jungkook looked at the awestruck, silent crowd, then up at Taehyung. For the first time in years, the crushing weight in his chest felt light. A small, genuine smile bloomed across his lips, and he gave Taehyung's hand a tight, grateful squeeze. 2 years later, the morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of a sunlit nursery overlooking a private, quiet garden. Laughter, soft, high-pitched, and cheerful, echoed through the room. A healthy, chubby 11-month-old baby girl sat on a soft velvet playmat, happily banging two wooden toy blocks together. Sitting beside her on the floor was Jungkook, wearing loose cotton clothes, his cheeks full of life and health. The dark shadows under his eyes were long gone, replaced by a radiant, peaceful glow. 2 years had passed since that turbulent day at the college. With Taehyung running his business empire from home as much as possible, and with continuous, gentle care, Jungkook had healed from his physical wounds. But his voice had remained stubbornly locked behind his childhood trauma. Doctors had told Taehyung that the mutism might be permanent, as the neurological block was too deep-rooted. Taehyung had simply smiled, kissed Jungkook's forehead, and told the doctors it didn't matter, he loved Jungkook's soul, with or without words. Taehyung stood by the doorway of the nursery, leaning against the frame with a mug of coffee in his hand, watching his family with unadulterated devotion. "Look at you two," Taehyung chuckled softly, stepping into the room. "Is she giving you a hard time, baby?" Jungkook looked up, giggling silently as he held up the baby's tiny hand to wave at Taehyung. Taehyung knelt down, setting his mug on a high shelf out of reach. He picked up the baby, hoisting her gently into the air until she let out a delighted squeal before cradling her against his chest and leaning down to plant a sweet kiss on Jungkook's lips. I have to hop on a quick conference call in the study, Taehyung murmured against Jungkook's mouth. I'll be back in 20 minutes, okay? Jungkook nodded happily, signing, I will set up her crib for nap time. Taehyung handed the baby back to Jungkook and walked down the hallway toward his study, leaving the nursery door slightly ajar. Jungkook walked over to the wooden crib near the window to adjust the blanket and check the lock on the adjustable side rail. The crib was situated on a smooth hardwood floor near a slight decorative step. As Jungkook reached over to fix the mobile dangling from the top, his foot caught the edge of a heavy plush toy on the floor. He stumbled forward, bumping hard into the side of the crib. The wheel lock on the crib snapped loose under the sudden impact. The crib rolled quickly toward the wooden step leading down into the sunroom below. Time seemed to freeze. The baby reached her little arms out from inside the rolling crib, completely unaware of the drop ahead. Panic, sharp, primal, and overwhelming, surged through Jungkook's chest. His heart slammed against his ribs like a battering ram. He lunged forward to grab the edge of the wood, but his fingers barely missed the railing as the crib tipped toward the step. The invisible wall in his throat, locked shut for over 15 years by trauma and fear, shattered instantly under the terrifying surge of adrenaline. Hubby. The voice was clear, sharp, and ringing with desperate emotion. From down the hall in the study, Taehyung froze mid-sentence. The pen in his hand clattered onto his desk. He didn't think, he didn't breathe. In a split second, Taehyung sprinted down the corridor, his heart pounding in his throat. He burst into the nursery just as Jungkook successfully caught the frame of the crib with both hands, using his entire body weight to pull it back onto the flat floor safely away from the step, pulling the baby into his arms. Jungkook sat on the floor, holding the crying baby tight against his chest, his shoulders heaving as he gasped for air. Taehyung stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes wide, his hands trembling violently. Jeon Jungkook. Taehyung's voice broke, barely a whisper. Did you just... Jungkook looked up, tears blurring his vision. He looked at his own hands, then touched his throat, feeling the faint, lingering vibration of his vocal cords. He swallowed hard, trembling as he opened his mouth again. Tae, Jungkook sobbed out, his voice raspy, unpolished, and slightly quiet but breathtakingly real. Taehyung, I saved her. Taehyung dropped to his knees as if his legs could no longer support him. Tears burst from Taehyung's eyes, tears of pure, unadulterated joy and relief. He wrapped his arms tightly around both Jungkook and their baby, pulling them into a fierce, overwhelming embrace. You spoke. Taehyung sobbed softly into Jungkook's hair, kissing his cheeks, his eyes, his lips, over and over again. My sweet boy, your voice. You spoke. I love you. Jungkook whispered clearly into Taehyung's neck, his arms wrapping around Taehyung's shoulders, holding him tight. I love you, Taehyung. Taehyung pulled back slightly, framing Jungkook's face with both hands, staring into the eyes of the boy he had protected his entire life, now fully healed, fully whole, and standing in the warm light of a brand new dawn. I love you more than life itself, Taehyung promised, pressing his lips to Jungkook's in a deep, beautiful kiss as their baby babbled happily between them, bathed in the soft morning light.